Hi folks, welcome to Streaming 101. This is a free webinar. We hope that you enjoy this time. It will be about 30 minutes or so, and we will take some questions at the end, and actually you can type in your questions through the chat anytime you want, and if we have time we will try to get to them at the very end, and if we can't find an answer we will email you with the answer. So up in the top of your screen you will see a little set of icons, a phone, a little chat box icon, information for your screen and all that stuff. So towards the left is that little chat area. You can click on that. I've already put some messages in there, and if you have a question or something you can certainly type in your text on that and we will get to it when we can here at the end. So this Streaming 101 seminar or webinar, the basics of streaming. It's all about the basics of streaming video, and it will help you understand what streaming video is and how you can do it. But again, I want to emphasize that it is the basics, and we'll show you a little bit about this here as we move on. So the first thing I want to talk about here, I want to introduce Steve Lacy. Steve Lacy is our president. He's our founder of JSL Solutions, which is streamingchurch.tv, which is myflock.com, and also churchapplive.com. And we are not here to sell you something, although we will give you a special offer at the very end if you want to do that. We'll give you a special offer. But our heart and our desire is to help churches, ministries use technology, and especially streaming video, to reach people. And I just want to introduce Steve. Steve, how are you today?
I am doing great. Glad to be here. I'm glad you guys are here online to learn a little bit more about streaming your services.
Oh, it's good to have you here, Steve. And Steve is actually a degreed mechanical engineer. He went to work in the aerospace industry back in the dark ages of the 1980s. And he was actually on the internet in the late 80s, long before Al Gore invented it. That's a joke. But he worked for defense contractors and was involved with the internet in the military areas of things. And then in late 2008, Steve's own local church began doing streaming video, and that kind of led to the development of really a turnkey system that allows churches to do streaming video in a very easy way. And Streaming Church TV kind of evolved from that. But even before that, well, actually before 2008, he's founded myflock.com, which is a very interactive website designed for churches, and then last year he set up Church App Live, which is mobile apps for churches. So that's a little background on Steve. He's got actually a lot of background. Time won't really allow me to get into it, and I'll talk for just a moment about myself. I'm the executive director of JSL Solutions, and I've been involved. I've known Steve now since probably the mid-90s or so, and Steve is involved in leadership at the church I was involved in leadership at. I actually started to do Christian broadcasting in the late 70s and helped start a couple radio stations in Tucson, Arizona. One was in 1981, the other one was in 1990. I do voiceover work, and at the same time I have been doing church work. I've been involved in pastoral ministry. I actually helped start some churches after the late 90s, and involved in my church as well. So we tell you all this just to simply give you a little bit of background. Our heart is to help churches and ministries, and we've got the background in it ourselves. We understand how it works, and we work exclusively with churches and ministries. There's a couple small businesses involved with us as well. But all right, so moving on here, what you really want to hear about, and that is streaming video. How does streaming video work, and what do you need, and all that good stuff. So I put up on the screen here just a little diagram that's a very simplistic idea of streaming video. So streaming video starts, in this case, at your church, and you can use one or two cameras or more cameras. It's going to go into some type of a video switcher, some type of a video card or video device, which then goes into your computer, which is where you would have your live encoder. And you can use live encoders in a software mode, or you can also use what they call a hardware that has live encoders. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But basically, you're sending up your stream through a live encoder up to servers, streaming servers, And then from there, people connect with a link, and they can watch it on their phones or their computers or even their televisions now with Roku. So that's a pretty simplistic way to describe it, but that's basically how it works in a nutshell. And then moving on here, the big question, the big $64,000 question is, what do you need to do streaming video? And there's always a lot of people out there that will tell you you've got to spend a lot of money and you need this, you need that. And some of that could be true depending on what you're trying to do. But again, I'm talking to you about the basics today, and we'll show you the basics of streaming video. And you really don't need to have a lot of money to start off doing streaming video. There's some basic things you can do. And first of all, we want to talk about the main thing that you've got to have if you're going to do video, streaming video at your church or wherever it is. You have to have internet, and you have to have really good internet upload speed. And again, on this screenshot, we have a little diagram, if you can see that or not, but it's just a speed test. This happens to be a link from our streamingchurch.tv page, but you can use any speed test as long as it's like an open speed test. What's the other one that speedtest.net?
Speedtest.net is very popular.
But just make sure you don't download the spam that's on it. But here's what's most important, your upload speed. And so you want to make sure that your upload speed is good. Your download speed is not quite as important. Your quality of service is very important as well. So if you don't have good internet at your church, get better internet before you start streaming. DSL can work as long as you don't have a bunch of people on it. Cable is better. If you're able to do something even more extreme and more advanced, that's great as well. But the upload speed is the most important thing you're going to have if you're going to do streaming video. And most of the issues that people have with buffering and video dropping out and all those kind of things, most of them, the majority of them happen because of their local network. And it happens. The internet today in the United States of America is better than it was 10 years ago, but it's still not to the quality of broadcast television. And there are more and more areas getting fiber optics in there, and that's helping things a little bit. But there are glitches. There are little bumps. Steve, the church you were at, used to be every time the golf tournament came to Tucson, the networks or something would rob bandwidth in the area, and we would have some issues with our internet. And so it does happen.
Yeah, and one of the things to consider, I mean, when Phil says you need a good internet connection, that question is a little bit depends on the quality you want to broadcast at. But if we're talking basics and we're talking kind of minimums here, we tell people that you're gonna want to have at least a megabit per second upload. So if you're going to be sending out a much higher quality stream, or you want to just ensure a safety margin that you aren't going to have any issues, the higher your upload speed, the better. And as Phil mentioned, upload's what matters. Most people talk in terms of download, but the upload is the key one. So you're going to want to, and we do have churches that do stream with less than those numbers, less than a megabit per second, but it can be very problematic.
It certainly can be. And the other thing too is, we'll touch on this briefly, but there's such a thing as standard definition streaming and high definition. And we recommend that you start off using standard definition. In fact, you can do a really good job with standard definition and not have to have huge upload speeds, because if you're going to do HD, high definition video, you're going to have really high upload speeds. You're going to have different equipment. It's going to cost more money, and we have customers that do it, and that's fine. But if you're starting out, I would recommend standard definition, and there's all sorts of reasons for that. The other side of the coin is people on the other end trying to get you, they're going to have a good network connection if you're streaming HD. And there's ways around that as well, but we can get into that next time. So again, the internet is very important, the upload speed is. And by the way, if you have a lot of people on your local network at church, if you have Wi-Fi and a lot of people are on it, that can also affect your bandwidth. It can shrink. It can have atrophy. And so you always kind of want to keep people off your network when you're streaming, because it does affect your bandwidth.
Yeah, a best practice at some of the churches is to have a separate network for the upload stream. separate from everybody that's on Wi-Fi and that sort of thing.
Right.
Because we have had issues in the past.
Yeah, and that does happen. So if you can get a separate network for streaming, that would be a good thing. And again, if you have questions, feel free to type in the chat. There's a little chat box up above. You can ask us questions. We will try to answer those if we have time here at the end. So again, welcome to Streaming 101. If you've just joined us, I'm Phil Thompson, and Steve Lacy is here with us. So my next shot here is our tech specs. What do you need if you're going to do streaming video? You need internet and you need a good computer. I don't know if you can see these specs or not, but the bottom line is if you have a computer that's healthy, it doesn't have to be brand new. It doesn't have to be the fastest thing in the world. It just needs to be healthy. And you can stream on a Mac, you can stream on Windows. There's lots of things you can do, and it really doesn't have to be a huge, huge deal. Minimum dual core CPU is important. If you've got 4 gigs of RAM, that would be good if you're going to do really more of a high definition streaming, but you can get by with 2 gigabytes of RAM. Really, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it really kind of comes down to having your computer healthy. If you're going to stream, you really should set that computer aside to be your streaming computer and not let a bunch of people on it during the week. And not have a bunch of programs running on it while you're streaming, because it will suck resources. And if people are on it during the week, who knows what they're going to pick up? Spam, viruses, those kind of things.
Right. And as people report issues, I mean, Phil mentioned almost always it's an internet upload speed issue, but the next place to look is on the computer and see if you've got adequate CPU performance while you're encoding. So it will take down your computer a little bit, but as Phil mentioned, it doesn't require a top-of-the-line, high-powered computer. Any average computer can handle the load of the encoding.
So if you have questions about that, feel free to chat with that. And people are asking us if there's audio for this. You're going to have to call in the conference line to get audio on this thing. So we violated a rule there. We answered a question before we were done. So. Yeah,
but that's okay. And if you need that number, we'll type it in the chat here in a minute. Just let us know in the chat.
All right, yeah. So anyhow, moving on here, we've got so computer stuff. We just touched on that. As long as you have a healthy computer, you're going to be okay. The other issue is cameras. What do we need for cameras? Now, cameras, that's another can of worms to answer, but we get a lot of people asking, what's a good camera to get? Well, it kind of is like asking, what kind of a car should I get? There's lots and lots of cars out there, and it depends on your budget and depends on what you want to do. Same way with cameras. There's lots of cameras out there that you can use for streaming. You'd be surprised what you can use. The one you're seeing right now is a professional Canon XH1. It's an HD camera. It was purchased a number of years ago for around $3,500. You can probably get it used a little cheaper. There are different cameras out there. There are USB cameras. There are HDMI, SDI type cameras. There are things like IP cameras. So it really depends on your budget, what you want to do. I will say this much, that I have found, I just read an article recently that somebody did a study on the newest and greatest cameras out there, and they compared them to some of the older ones, like what you're seeing on the screen here, and there was very little difference, if any, in the quality. And so be careful that you don't try to spend a lot of money and try to spend a lot of money on a camera, because you might be able to get some used ones or ones that are not quite as expensive. And really part of the camera deal is your lighting is very important, and how far away your camera is. So again, there's lots of different cameras out there. Keep that in mind. This is a pro consumer. I think they paid about $1,200 for this at one point. I just was talking to a customer the other day that I think is getting 1 or 2 of these for less than that. I'm going to talk a little more. I'm going to show you one more shot here, and this is what you might say is a handy cam. It's a portable camera that you would use, take your family out or whatever, but and take pictures. You can actually use one of these cameras and put it on a tripod to stream. And actually, Steve, you have something that you bought a couple years ago that's kind of resembles this. It actually has some really good high quality pixels.
Yes, yeah. I bought actually for personal use, but it's It's a Canon Vixia HG20, and it is, I mean, it's got great picture quality, and it's not a, you know, it was, at the time, it was maybe an $800 camera.
Okay.
But it does work. It works great for you know, this type of thing. A lot of things to consider as you get into the cameras is different output options and that sort of thing.
Well, and the output options are something we can talk about later, but notice on this camera setting that is coming out and going into a little box, and I'll talk about that box in a moment or so. But that box is a video capture device, which is very important, which we'll get into. So again, cameras are a dime a dozen, so to speak, but you don't have to spend a lot of money on them as well. So here we go. This is a shot of a live encoder. So we're talking about what you need, and we said internet, we said cameras, we said computers. So here is just a screenshot of a live encoder. It's a Flash Media Live encoder. And the Flash Media Live encoder is a free encoder that you can download. It is software. You can load it on your computer, and then when you do streaming, there are credentials that the streaming company will send to you. And you can see a little shot there of that. Now, what I'm going to attempt to do here is actually put up a live encoder. There's many different live encoders out there. The Flash Media Live encoder does a nice job for what it is. And again, if you need more information on that, you can ask us a question through text here, or you can send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. So the live encoder is something that I'm going to try to open up here, and this could get a little clumsy here, folks, but we're going to give it a shot and see if we can make it work. I'm going to open up a Flash Media Live encoder that you just saw, and I'm going to drop in the credentials here on this live encoder, and I'm going to actually show you how simple it is to stream. And so you're probably seeing a screenshot of Steve and I right now. We are sitting here right at my messy office, and the first thing I'm going to do is open up an XML file that I have set up in advance. Let's put this in here, and we're going to go ahead and connect to it. So really, I just dropped the credentials in. There's different settings here that we have. Uno momento here. Let me pull up the credentials here. Steve, you've had a lot of experience with this live encoder. It's a pretty healthy encoder, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's a comment here in the chat that talks about that the 3.2 always crashes. We've actually had not had any problems with either version, but we do recommend the 3.2 version. It is the most recent version.
It can crash depending on again how your computer is doing. So I just entered some credentials in here, and I'm going to start streaming right now. And you can actually go to if I can pull this up. If you want to see this, you can open up a screen, and you can go to a URL that I'm going to give you here in just a second here. Sorry for the clumsiness here. So if you want to see a URL, it's here at the bottom of the screen, and you can see us streaming from a Streaming Church TV platform. It's just tinyurl.com/SCTV Live. And if you look there, you'll see us streaming on a platform. We're going to talk about Streaming Church TV platforms in just a moment. If you're going to do streaming video, we'd encourage you to do more than just a video. We'd encourage you to do chat and those kind of things. But if you go to that URL, tinyurl.com/SCTV Live, you'll be able to see us streaming here. And I'm not going to do this very long. I'm just going to put it up there for a moment.
Yeah, that works.
In fact, you might want to pull it up, Steve, if you want on your computer to do that. Here's another live encoder we're going to recommend, actually. It's called Wirecast. And Wirecast is software. Now, keep in mind, there are live encoders that are hardware, or they are software-oriented encoders. And we like Wirecast. We don't have any stock in the company. We don't have any. We don't get anything for pushing it. But it is a healthy encoder because it gives you multiple options. And Steve, tell me, you're using Wirecast at your church. How is it to use, and do you like it?
one of the main differences you're going to see moving to Wirecast, and the one we talked about prior was the Flash Media Live Encoder. It is a free download from Adobe. This does cost, and it is worth it, though. You do get some additional features that you're not going to see with the Flash Media Live Encoder. One of the primary ones is you're going to have the ability for multiple video inputs. So now you can do some switching. And then there's features within Wirecast that are going to allow you to do things like do lower thirds and do picture-in-picture, do some really neat transitions. And you can also source videos. So you can take videos that you have queued up that you want to include in the service and transition to the videos, finish the videos, and then go back to live. And so there's a lot of capability that you're going to see similar to a hardware-based encoder, but this would be just all through the Wirecast tool. So it is very popular, very powerful, and actually many of the companies now that are selling the hardware-based solutions are also including Wirecast as their software interface.
That's true.
So good.
Yeah. Here's another screenshot I put up here, just to give you an idea. This is a computer, it looks like a Mac using Wirecast, and you can see they've got multiple cameras plugged into it. And if you want something portable, that's one way to go. We don't normally recommend streaming from laptops, but you can do it if you had to. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat. There's a chat box up above. We will try to get to your questions at the end here. But Wirecast is a good solution. The reason I like software a little better than hardware encoders is because if your hardware encoder crashes and dies and fries, which your church has had that experience, you're stuck. Whereas if your computer where Wirecast or another software encoder is at, you can just simply download Wirecast on another machine and maybe change a couple things there, and you're good to go. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to show you some other things here in a moment. I'm going to turn off the live stream here.
Right, that may be.
Just so we don't have issues here. And but that's just, I wanted to give you just a quick example on how easy it was to do a live encoder, and that's why I did that. All right, so moving on here, folks. Let me pull this back up. Let's move on quickly here. We're looking at Wirecast, but let's look at some very quickly hardware live encoders. I put up a screen here shot of TriCaster, and we've had some experience with TriCaster. A good unit, usually a little more expensive, but again, it all depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it and what your budget's all about. So you could get a hardware encoder. There's multiple ones out there, different ones now. But again, I don't know about you, but I kind of like the software ones.
Right. TriCaster is a popular unit, and it can be very expensive. And we actually had a TriCaster at our church. We actually lived through the experience that Phil talked about. We had first an audio card go out, and then something else that was catastrophic, where we were without a streaming device for a weekend and had to move back to some other impromptu options all of a sudden.
Right. So hardware encoders are basically a computer. That's really what it is. But it's really designated to do live streaming.
What's interesting is with the TriCaster, it's running on Windows. So it boots like a regular computer. And there was a question in here about Wirecast replacing a video switcher. Yeah, you could do that. I mean, there may be some features that you're going to get in a video switcher that might not be available within Wirecast, but you could definitely do video switching with Wirecast alone.
So
you're talking about digital.
I just want to pull up digital video switchers. You could actually use a digital video switcher along with Wirecast if you had multiple sources you wanted to use, or if you wanted if you had a different encoder that didn't have those sources, you could do that. We don't recommend using video switchers, too many of them at least, with Flash Media Live Encoder, because Flash Media Live Encoder doesn't handle HDMI connections very well. But if you're going to do streaming video, as we're talking here today, the basics, digital video streaming switchers are there for you, but they're usually pretty expensive, usually a minimum of $1,000, usually, to get into a video switcher, and usually more than $1,000. Moving right along here very quickly, this is what we recommended for the basics of streaming video, the Grass Valley ADVC55. It is a device that utilizes FireWire. Here's a one shot. If you on one side of it is where the FireWire output goes into your computer. I'm going to flip this around and show you what FireWire is. FireWire is not to belabor this point because we're running out of time here, but FireWire is developed a long time ago by the folks at Apple, and it really processes data, processes streaming video very well. It is older technology, and they've come out with now, I think, Thunderbolts, but it is still good technology for streaming video. If you go somewhere like Best Buy or some of these other places, they don't always understand streaming video. And so, but this is a good tool to utilize streaming video with is FireWire. And the other end of this Grass Valley ADVC55 device, the other end is where you plug your cameras in. It's composite, or you also have the ability to have S-video as well. And so you can plug your camera in on this side, and on the other side, FireWire goes out into your computer.
Right. And this is an example to just get people going, get started. It's an entry level.
The basic thing is we're talking about.
Device, yeah.
There are lots of video capture cards out there and devices. We can help you about that. And I showed you this shot earlier. Remember, here's a camera, and if you look over to the right-hand corner, there's that ADVC55 device that it's plugged into, and then it's going into the computer from the other end there. So again, pretty basic, but actually works very well. So the sound is the next thing I want to talk about with streaming video. And believe it or not, video is very important, but I think sound or audio is just as important, because if your video is good but your audio sucks, quite frankly, people aren't going to tolerate it. And so you really should have a decent audio sound going into your streaming video. And one of the ways you can do that is coming out of your own sound mixer at church, and then you can either go directly into your computer, and hopefully you've mixed it well enough where it's not overloading, or you could go into another mixer, and you could even work on it a little bit from another mixer, like this little one here, and then take the mixer and go into the computer. There's all sorts of different ways to do this. The church that I used to be at, that Steve is still at, uses an isolator, which actually works pretty well, and then they mix it again for the internet, because when it is online, the internet compresses audio and does all sorts of things.
The house sound is going to run different than the internet sound, and so I mean they'll optimize the house for sound, and then you take that signal, and what we're doing is going ahead and enhancing that to, we'll listen to it on the web, see what it sounds like, and do some mixing, real-time mixing for the web.
And so again, audio is very important. So I would suggest that you have somebody monitoring your stream and listen to the audio as well as looking at the picture, because if the audio is garbled or too low or whatever, then make sure that you can make some adjustments on that. A lot of people just set it and forget it, and they don't realize that audio is very important. Moving on here, we're running out of time here. Lighting is also very important. So lighting is the deal here. If you saw the video we had earlier, we didn't have real good lighting in my office here, but you can really get away with an inexpensive camera if your lighting is good. And it does take some finagling. It does take some work to do that. But the truth is, you can do a lot of things. Excuse me on that. You can do a lot of things that you could do with an inexpensive camera if you simply worked on the lighting a little better. And I put up on the slide there. Sorry, I had to take it down for a moment. There are different sources for lighting out there. And again, I would just strongly suggest that you experiment a little bit, see what you can do with what you've got, and work on the lighting. Look at the cameras as you're streaming. Look at the cameras as you are setting things up, and adjust the lighting and see what you can do. I'm going through this slide a little bit because I got derailed here a little bit. So keep an eye on lighting. I did put up a couple different slides on lighting. Here's one here. There's all sorts of different helps out there. Some of it's expensive, some of it's not expensive. Shop around a little bit. There's some LED things here that you could get as well that could improve the experience for the viewer online.
All right. Got a
All
question about, well, we'll wait here.
Let's wait for just a moment and let me wrap this
Yeah.
up. One more thing here as I wrap up. I mentioned earlier that streaming video, the audio is important, the picture is important, but if you're going to do streaming video, might I suggest that you have a streaming platform that has chat, that has interactive resources, because part of what you want to do is connect people out there. And as you see here, there's a screenshot we've put up here, and this happens to be our own company has this platform. There are other streaming companies that have platforms. We have interactive chat. We have, you can see who's online. You can, there's a place for notes, for the pastor's notes. People can look at the sermon notes. There's a map to see who's online. There's Bible software people can look at while they're watching the streaming video. And then you can put different links on this platform. So, you know, we don't have paid ads, but you can advertise your own thing for your own church. And you got Bible studies going on, you got some special event, you can put this on your chat platform so people will see and be able to click on something that you want them to be able to experience, not what somebody else is doing. So a chat platform, I think, is very important. What's also very important is to have a chat host or a web host who can greet people, and it will help them connect with the church. It's also very important is you're streaming to have whoever's up there speaking, the pastor, he or she, to mention on a regular basis that people are watching online. It helps the people in the congregation know that there's a bigger picture out there. It's not just about them, it's about other people. And it helps the people watching online to feel a part of things and to be able to interact.
Yeah. Our philosophy is we want to extend the experience that you have online to the experience that you have in person online. So some of the things that you would do in person, like you want to set up greeters so as people show up. So with other platforms and our platform as well, it's going to announce when people arrive, and you want to say, hey, do a virtual handshake, say welcome to the service, that sort of thing.
Right. Answer
any questions. So you want to make the environment online as interactive and as pleasing as they would experience in person.
Right. Yeah. That's really important, folks. I can't emphasize that. And by the way, with what our company does is you can customize your platform too. It's very customizable. It's a lot of things you can do with it. Again, we're not really pushing ourselves here, but we just want to encourage you that whatever you decide to do, consider having a platform that has chat on it and take advantage of that. All right, so we're running out of time here. I do want to say this, that at Streaming Church TV, we do have a special offer. We realize some of you are watching our customers already, but for those of you who may not be doing streaming video and you want to start, we have a special webinar offer today, and it's today only. And so you can sign up today. If you sign up today, it's a 30-day free trial, and if you decide to activate, you'll get 50% off your activation, actually 50% off your monthly subscription. And you'll get 20 gigabytes free for the next 6 months. This is only for today, and the bottom line here is that there's no obligation to sign up. So you might say, well, I don't know if I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. I understand that. You might be hesitant, but there's no obligation. You're not today. If you sign up today, you don't have to enter any credit cards.
Yeah. Create a free trial. If you doesn't work out for you, then that's fine. It'll automatically suspend and go away.
And we're not going to bug you. The only thing you'll get from us is a little thing once in a while that says you have so many more days left on your free trial and that. So you can take advantage of that. All you have to do, if you want to, is go to streamingchurch.tv, and you can start your free trial today. If you have questions, email us at support@streamingchurch.tv. This is a special offer for new people, new customers only. Those of you who may be regular customers, sorry, this is for our people here today. So anyhow, we are officially done here with our webinar. If you have questions, you can send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. We sure appreciate people spending some time with us, and if we can help you in any way, we will. We do have some questions.
Yes, we have a couple of questions. So, and the first one was that we haven't addressed, I think, was they were talking about various ways to get your sound to Wirecast, and there's people jumped in and offered some solutions. So you basically just need to get that sound signal to the computer that's running Wirecast. So you can either go in through a sound card, even in through a mic input or some other routes there. But people offer some good things. A recommendation for an audio mixer. I don't know if I have one. Do you have one, Phil?
I really don't. There's lots of audio mixers out there, and I've got one around here somewhere. I really don't. Most of them, if you can go online and you can look at some, again, it's like cameras we said earlier, there's a lot of them out there.
Right.
And I don't think you need something real expensive. I would stay away from something, especially if you're just starting out.
Right. So, and then the last one was just, we got someone that's doing a free trial right now. And the idea for the free trial is we want to give you 30 days to find out if this is going to work for you.
Right.
And we feel that, with 30 days, that's going to be 4 weeks of services. You're going to have a good idea whether this is a good solution or not. So if you already got a free trial, I mean, they're asking if we can extend another 30 days. They said, well, talk to us later. Yeah.
So,
but as far as the 50% off the first month, yeah, if you do activate, we'll definitely honor that.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
We our heart is to help churches. We've been in church work all our lives. I mean, pretty much all our adult lives, right? I mean, I started when I was 18.
Yeah.
And that's been like 80 years ago. But but we want to help churches, so we will do our best to help you any way we can. And if you want to go with our company, streamingchurch.tv, that would be great. If there's somebody else that's a better fit for you, we understand that, and we certainly want to help you. So again, if you have questions and you just joined us or something, you have questions about streaming video, this has been the basics. You can always send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. And again, if you sign up today, you can take advantage of that free offer. And if you don't want to do it, you can sign up later and say, I don't like you guys. That's okay. We won't be offended.
Yeah. And we've recorded this, so you send us an email and we'll send you a link to this if you join later and that sort of thing.
We will do that. So again, I'm Phil Thompson.
And this is Steve Lacy.
And thank you so much for spending some time with us. We hope this has helped you a little bit, and that you have yourself a great day, and we'll see you online sometime.
All right, thanks.